This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, and we mentioned his piece in the Wall Street Journal yesterday. I didn't earn slavery reparations, and I don't want them. Talking about our friend Burgess Owens, friend of the show. He talking about his great-grandfather who came to America shackled in the belly of a slave ship and went on to be a free man, a successful man, a Christian man, the patriarch of a large family, a pillar of his community, and pass that on to future generations, like, to Burgess, who became a Super Bowl champion in the NFL. And he writes, among other pertinent parts of his piece in the Wall Street Journal, because of work I've never done, stripes I've never had, under whip I'll never know, Kamala Harris, Beto O'Rourke, Elizabeth Warren, and others want to give me free stuff. Never mind that it will be taken from others who also dreamed, worked, and sacrificed to earn it. I don't want it, writes Burgess Owens. Burgess Owens, former NFL player, as I mentioned, and Super Bowl champion, author of Why I Stand, From Freedom in the Killing Fields of Socialism, and one of my favorite book titles of all time, his previous book, Liberalism, or How to Turn Good Men into Whiners, Weenies, and Wimps.
That's awesome.
That is a great book title. And a good book. I read that one. I haven't gotten to his latest yet. Also, and we'll talk to him about this, Second Chance for You initiative. The Second Chance for You initiative. You can get more information about it at burgessowens.com. His website. Burgess Owens, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Dan and Amy, good talking with you again. Looking forward to it, my friend, for sure.
Obviously what prompted you to write about reparations is that this has become a signature issue of separating Democrat socialist candidates for president, as you point out, the number of candidates who have support reparations. And do you really think that this has currency in the for Black Americans, a significant currency for Black Americans, or is this more about appealing to white liberals?
No, it doesn't have any currency at all to any American who loves our country and wants to understand the process of assimilation and moving forward. What we have to understand is that, the same people talk about reparations, the same party that is yelling up from the rooftops about how we are owed for stuff in the past is the same party that did all that stuff. The Democratic Party is a party of slavery, segregation, the KKK, killing 20 million babies, putting these black people, my race, within these urban communities where they have no hope. And they're the same people that ask the rest of the country to man up and make up for what they've done. So my suggestion, very simply, is we should have reparations, but it should be democratic reparations. We should start a movement called Make Democrats Pay. Make them pay, and they should pay for every bit of misery that our country's gone through, because they've been at the very forefront. And it only works, Dan, if you steal our history. So let me just say this really quick. If Americans understood the we the people history that we've done together, they would be amazed at how well we've done to come from what we did to a country that literally looks at each other from inside out, not outside in. And I just want to make this one point, because Americans don't know this, because these liberals, socialists have stolen our history. The black race in the 40s, 50s, and 60s led our country in the growth of the middle class. There were 50% of black Americans, which my family and most of my family across the country were part of. 50% were part of the middle class, which means that percentage-wise, we had more success than white Americans during that time. We led our country in terms of the commitment of men to marriage. It was 70%. The percentage of men matriculated from college, and the percentage of entrepreneurs over 40%. So that's our history. And if we really take it a little further, you understand that we've turned that upside down because of the same Democratic Party that wants to talk about reparations.
Have you had any pushback from African Americans? I read your article. I loved it. I agree. I understand what you're saying, but there are some African Americans out there who want reparations. And have any of them talked to you about it or reached out to you?
And I mean, of course, there's always going to be, understand the ideology of socialism and Marxism isn't colorblind. You have blacks and whites that are part of that. And they whoever they are, blacks and whites, if they get into that area, first of all, they become racist. And racism, I grew up in the Deep South. I don't care what color you are. It's it is a way to stay unhappy for the rest of your life. And we have people in this country, because of the Democratic Party, has turned out my race from entrepreneur a race to a race of socialists. Those are sitting there that want to be beggars. They think for some reason, because they were born black, that somebody owes them a living. And that's never been the American way, and never will be the American way. If you want to do that, go to some other country that stops people from moving forward. That is not America. And that's the beauty of my great-great-grandfather's story. If you understand that slaves came from that period and became very successful, that undermines every bit of the reparation, the idea that some kind of way slavery is in our DNA. Because we have success intertwined throughout our history, then it shows that no matter where you were, what your background might be, that you can see in this country. And that's the message that the leftists would not like to get out, because it gives us hope no matter where we are in our lives.
You mentioned black Americans being born free. Well, that's if they're born. And with abortion in the news, I wanted to get your take on these two data points, which the left doesn't want Americans to know either. Black Americans, 12% of the country's population, 35% of the abortions, 78% of Planned Parenthood clinics in minority communities. How do you receive those data points?
Again, understand that's all Democratic Party. The one thing that the Democrats do and have done well, and it started with the NAACP in 1910, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, was not started by colored people. It started by 21 white socialist, Marxist, race-controlled Democrats. Of course, they put in front of it a colored person, a black person, as they went up the side. And that's the Democratic Party today. Our greatest enemy is not white supremacists, it's black elitists. It's these people like John Lewis and Maxine Waters and the whole group that become very, very wealthy. And all they do is they carry the water for a Democratic Party that literally brings misery as a policy to black people. So no, if you understand that we've been on attack for a long time, if you take the history and the book I wrote, Liberalism, How to Turn Good People into Whiners, Weens, and Wimps, it talks about how my race was attacked back in 1910 and switched totally around. That's exactly, we're the prototype of what they're trying to do to our country now. Destroy the family unit, take away our hope, take away manhood, disrespect womanhood, separate us so we're hopeless. That's what they're trying to do to our country. They did it very, very well for the last 60, 70 years to the black community. So let's not let it happen. We've gone that route before. Let's learn our history from what they've done to us and not let them do it again for our country. Speaking
of manhood and womanhood, those are confusing categories these days. A man who identifies as a woman from Franklin Pierce University, C.C. Telfer, beat the 800 women, eight women in the field for the 400-meter hurdles by more than a second. He is the Division II women's 400-meter hurdle national champion. What about that? What about men competing against women in sports?
That are female sports, women's sports.
Right, and disenfranchising women to participate in sports or achieve in sports at every level.
I understand that the core of our fight, and it doesn't matter which of these topics we go through, the core of it is we have the Judeo-Christian values that our country is based on, which identify families as men and women, biological, and what a family looks like. That is at the core of our country, and it's been one that has allowed us to be the most successful nation in the history of mankind. We have the socialists, Marxists, and atheists that would love to turn it upside down. We have men competing against women, and people thinking it's okay. I wonder, where are the parents? Where's the mother and father of these people, these kids, these girls particularly, that's seeing that these opportunities have been taken away from them by men and sitting there quietly letting it happen? What's going on with the fathers of our country that allow that to happen to their daughters? We need to man up for men and women up and fight against this ideology of stealing the real core of the values of our country and who we are. And it saddens me to see that this is going on and it's allowed to go on because no one is standing up for it. So wherever these bureaucrats are making these decisions, some kind of way we need to get them, they're like little termites in our system, get them out of there and get people in there care about our country, care about our kids, and particularly our young ladies. Once we start losing respect for our young ladies, we've lost everything when it comes down to manhood. We don't have it anymore if we can't do that.
Mr. Owens, I wanted to ask you about some new information about FBI tapes that allege Martin Luther King Jr. had affairs with 40 women, but the point of contention is that he allegedly watched and laughed as his friend raped a woman. Do you think all MLK statues should come down? How do you think, with this Me Too
No,
movement, what
it
we should
saddens
do?
me, obviously. It saddens me, obviously, if that is what's happened. And here's the thing that we have to learn to think about when it comes down to our past. We have a tendency today, particularly the leftists, is having this idea that people in the past have been pure. They have done nothing wrong. They have been the greatest examples of a God. Understand that people are people. They're going to make mistakes. Our country is full of imperfect people from throughout the history of time, and we are today the same way imperfect. So no, we don't take away the statues. What we do is take what he gave to us, examples of how we move our country further. Understand he was a flawed man, and again, I'm hoping that that's not true. But at the end of the day, it shows that even those of us who make big mistakes, and we all do, we can still create value to this country. We need to pull that value, teach the positives out that we've done to our kids, and help them emulate that, and every generation gets better by understanding the mistakes and not duplicating that, and at the same time being the best we can with those great things we've been taught.
I think that's well said, and that dovetails nicely to a little bit more detail on your Second Chance for You initiative.
Yes, Second Chance for Youth, and thank you so much, Dan, for bringing it up, because I'm convinced that our country is going to come back, not because of what we do on the top of these particularly elitists with these different programs, is those kids that they have thrown away. What they look at as trash. Those kids have gone through the system, no fathers, no parenting, no idea of respect, no idea of love for a country. They go through the juvenile system. They come out, and no one gives them any idea of how to change the way they think, give them opportunities, so they go right back in. That is the group. I truly believe that young group, that we give them hope. They come out, they will change the trajectory of my race. And because black community has been, the left's been addicted to us, we start going from 92% support of them down to 70% or 50%, they have lost it. And so my thought is, and I hope people go there, and there's a thing we're putting together, and I hope they can support us. But at the end of the day, it's going to be that generation of invisible generation that's going to bring our country back. And I hope everybody joins us in getting our kids and our youth back on track, giving them hope. And they will be the strongest advocates for our country moving forward.
All right, that's the Second Chance for Youth initiative Burgess Owens was talking about. BurgessOwens.com, his website to get more information. Also pick up his books, including his latest one, Why I Stand, From Freedom to the Killing Fields of Socialism. Burgess Owens, thanks as always for joining us. Good to talk to you.
Thank you, guys. Let's do it again. I look forward to it. Take care.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
we'll definitely have you back. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago.